What's up, Chris? It's James Adair, and I'm coming to you again. Thank you for making the time to have a conversation with me on another episode of our Equity Accelerator podcast.
Yeah, I love it. Our last conversation was my favorite so far, but I feel like this is going to be a good one too.
I think this is, it's always good, Chris. That's why you're so good at what you do.
Hey, chemistry, man.
Here at the Equity Accelerator podcast, we're going to talk about, I'm in the mortgage business, so we talk a lot about, what's happening in the mortgage space, but we really want to talk, it's kind of a play on words because we talk about how to accelerate your equity in your home. We're going to talk about how to accelerate equity in your relationships, how to accelerate equity in your business and life, et cetera. So that's kind of the play on words for this podcast, but it's really designed for anybody who's interested in real estate and doing it right, getting better, learning. And that's what we're all about today. And before we hit record, you were telling me about this great book that you had just finished reading. You want to bring that up? And I thought it was really applicable to how we run our businesses.
Yeah. And then you come back with the thing that you said about Google and Microsoft. and we'll do
We're
it that
always
way.
talking about Google and Microsoft.
Yeah. Well, listen, and I read it years ago now, so I didn't just finish it, but I read it years ago and it stuck with me. And last episode, I talked about Jim Collins, who wrote Built to Last. I love all of his books. He's incredible.
Did he write this book too?
Yep. Yeah. He wrote a book called How the Mighty Fall. How the Mighty Fall. And I'll just give you the bottom line of it was amazing companies in their time became extinct. And how did they do that? And they went and did research on how this happened. And what they found were these 5 phases of how the mighty fall. And phase 1 is hubris, born of success. So arrogance, right? Or like overconfidence born out of, they succeeded. They're like, yeah, look at us. We did it. And then it might actually be step 3 or phase 3, but there is this undisciplined pursuit of more. All of a sudden, it's all about being number one. It's about world domination.
Right. Undisciplined is the key.
Yeah, undisciplined is key. At all costs, we're going to grow. And in the pursuit of all costs, they lose touch with who they're really trying to serve. And that is when they actually become extinct because they've lost touch with their consumer,
They open the door for someone else to come in and do it in a better way. And that's what reminded me of when I, 10, 12 years ago when I was just kind of getting traction in the mortgage business here in Portland. Yeah. Seeing these super big producers in town and like kind of, I don't even know that I was aspiring to be that big, but I was kind of picking up their scraps and doing things that I think that they weren't ready to do. I was doing what I was working longer. I was working harder. I was following up faster with more energy. Yeah. And, and some people were like, oh, I used to work with so-and-so, but I really just, I would always only ever talk to their, assistant. I never even talked to him. He doesn't even do.
Oh yeah. Good point.
He doesn't even do the real estate anymore. You just talk to his fleet of assistants and then he's off gallivanting around.
They became irrelevant. Yeah. That's
right. So that's the opportunity. And is to step in and I've had some success over the years and I hope I'm staying humble enough that I'm not opening the door for younger, hungrier people to come in and trim my trees, so to speak. But
is that the right analogy?
Sounds kind of dirty, but So I think how the mighty fall. In a corporate standpoint, but we're also talking about legacy industries and how the mortgage industry has been around for decades, doing it the same way over and over and over again, and having systems in place and executive teams in place and layers of management to pay for and it reminded me of the mattress industry, which has actually been completely transformed, and that was and I was telling you earlier that mattress industry is a huge multi-bazillion dollar industry.
Right. Interesting.
And there's, every house has 3 or 4 mattresses and every hotel has 1,000 mattresses. And they're all $1,000 each. There's tons of margin.
Wow.
And it's a legacy industry, and
Right.
and the idea of buying a mattress, the retail experience of buying mattresses got pretty bad, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like,
And some startups in Silicon Valley showed up and they figured out a different way to deliver mattresses to people in a way that is superior. And I think the mattress industry is suffering greatly. I'm looking at the real estate space and the mortgage space, and I'm sure
financial planning
versions
space.
of that are happening. And we just have to be mindful of, how do people want this service delivered to them?
Right.
And is there a better way? And are we doing it right? Are we giving people a better option?
I think there's you were talking before we hit record too about these companies like Google, Microsoft, companies, Apple, where people, or maybe you didn't say Apple, but companies where like you would refresh that, because I feel like it plays in here.
Yeah, how the mighty fall. I mean, I don't know if they're at this state. I mean, I bet when Jim Collins wrote this book, these companies didn't exist in the way. How old is this book, you think?
Well, it was one of his more recent. I would say it was probably 7, 8 years ago.
I mean, how much has the world changed in the last 7, 8 years, honestly? So I was talking about the scale of companies like Facebook and Google are such that you cannot, in the developed world, you literally can't function as a citizen or as a business without them. Right. You don't have a choice anymore. So actually the problems they have and the blowback that they may be getting are problems that no business has really faced before. And it's actually the problems they're dealing with are the problems that governmental regimes are actually having to face.
It's beyond corporate problems. Now, you said they're operating like countries, like
exactly. They are as powerful as nations, and more powerful than some nations in some ways.
Say that thing you said. It was you were talking about like Google.
I was like, Google has got to have more legitimate intelligence than the CIA itself. They know more about where people are, what they're thinking, what they're at all times.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about that.
So
but I think part of the problem of it is, though, then that you start to have governmental one of the challenges with government, especially like if you look at the US, was because that's where I live, that's all I can speak to, is you now have these sayings like drain the swamp or whatever it is, and like where people are itching for things to change because it's such a system of systems, and there's like, where is the humanity in any of this? Like it's not about a political perspective, it's not a left side or right side thing, it's about this thing has been, or public education is another example of this. It's such a big monstrosity of policies and procedures, because that's what it needed to like create infrastructure to scale. But now that it's that big, it's really hard to make change and to stay relevant. That's where this comes into how the mighty fall, because it's really hard to stay relevant.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think if you think of drain the swamp, I mean, that's a perfect example. I mean, Trump, I think, was elected he snuck in the gap, right? He was not predicted to be elected. The markets didn't expect him to be elected. No one saw it coming. I don't even think Trump himself thought it would happen. But he was up against the Clinton machine. And I bet you could unpack the Clinton campaign and even all of their history of either relationships with donors and relationships with all of the Democratic Party system throughout the nation, and how they had the hubris and they just were like, it's our turn.
Really interesting. Yeah, that you say that. Yeah.
And and then Trump was like, nope, you've lost touch with the street, and like they want something else. Right.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, it's funny because I would imagine that some people voted for Trump not because they liked Trump, but because of just the ideology of draining a swamp or changing a system, right? And this isn't a political conversation. This is about like when you look at.
Oh my God! I mean, no one argues that Trump is not a master marketer, and it has these little simple simple phrases that trigger and activate areas of your brain and areas of your heart that are very powerful, right? That goes back into, I mean, as we do, we keep looping everything back into cool business books that we've read, but you and I are both super devoted to the story brand concept.
Yeah. Right. Totally.
by Donald Miller. Excellent book. One of the best books I probably read in the last couple of years around business. Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. And he has a great podcast as well. Super, super interesting
Same name,
stuff.
Building a Story Brand.
But it's basically a framework for marketing communication and how you need to not present yourself as a hero, but understand that every person in the world is the hero of their own story. And if you're selling a service or selling a product, you don't position the heroic nature of the product. You position yourself as the guide and the device through which the hero can solve his problem.
I feel like was it in his podcast or maybe his book, he talked about Hillary's campaign and Jeb Bush's campaign where they positioned themselves as the hero.
Hillary, but he actually worked for the Jeb Bush campaign, so he can speak directly to that.
Well, he came in late on that, though. I think he came in too late to really help them.
He tried to kind of revive their message, but it was too late, and he was already like a sinking ship. But yeah, the idea of within that framework of marketing communication, Hillary's campaign slogan was "I'm with her," right? And which makes her the hero, right? And Donald Trump's campaign slogan was
MAGA, make America great again, right?
MAGA, right? And it's not about him. It's something that it creates this tension that can be resolved by voting for him. It's like, I'm not with her. I'm actually going to make America great again. Like you know what I'm saying? So it's from a psychological perspective, it's very, very, very potent.
So let's bring this back and see if we can find a way to wrap where the conversation is about how do we because most of us aren't Googles and Facebooks and, big, country-sized corporations. We're solopreneurs, we're independent contractors, we're entrepreneurs but we still experience this right now in this window of time, this disconnect of like, how do we stay relevant? Right, because the 5 phases to extinction, right? Like how the mighty fall.
Right.
You will still find yourself as a solopreneur extinct if you don't know how to get back into relationship with the people who actually will pay your bills or cause your company to grow. That's what this is about.
Well, it's the end of the year as we're recording this. It's early January, so early 2019 as we're recording this episode. I'm not sure when it comes out, maybe February. So I'm still early in 2019. There's been a lot at the end of the year is always kinds of like year-end reflection and like, what are we going to do next? And it's a lot of people are talking about how the market is shifting, right? And we are experiencing a little bit of change in the buyer and seller dynamic in the Portland market at the time of this recording is changing for the first time in a few years. And a lot of people who call me up are saying, well, I think the market's going down. And it's totally false. It's not true. The market is going up. But what's happening is we're seeing a lot of price reductions in the market. So people are selling their homes for less than they thought they could, but it doesn't mean the market's going down. That's a totally different idea.
Right.
So we're seeing price reductions, which means, hey, it's a good opportunity to come in and not have to compete with buyers because sellers have gotten a little over their skis.
Right.
And I think, where's I going with this? The idea that, the market, everyone's like, how are we going to adapt to the market shift? And I don't think the shift it's only partly a change in the buyer-seller dynamic. I think another big part of the shift is that we're disconnected from how consumers want to interact with our service.
Yep.
And so I'm trying to be very mindful on how to connect with people, how to bring humanity into the conversation, how to really monetize the advice that I'm able to give people and prove to them that it's not, if you want a mortgage, like I'm going to show you some strategic ways to save tens of thousands of dollars. It's not about like where people are think, oh, I'm just going to get this app. I'm going to download an app and get a low rate and which speaks to what people think they want.
Right.
So, but so it's frustrating for me because I know that if I was in the mortgage business and I heard those ads, I would probably say that's what I want. Right.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping to disrupt that paradigm and create, the equity action plan and the active management of your equity as a ongoing service can be something that is clearly more valuable than just a transactional, tech only experience for people.
Absolutely. I think that's, if you guys go back and listen to the last episode about creating, the power of strange moments. I mean, I think when you create connection, all of a sudden technology, if it's connection first and technology second, then that seems to fit right? If it's technology first, then it's hard to kind of sneak in with or come in with strange moments, because they're just using technology to facilitate a transaction. But if you're creating connection first, I believe, because we're humans, we're going to stay with the person, and that's what creates your relevancy. I mean, to bring it back to How the Mighty Fall, like for you to stay relevant, you've got to find connection. If you find connection, you'll stay relevant.
Are you familiar with the company? This is actually a Portland-based online retailer called CD Baby.
Oh yeah, dude, totally. Yes. I actually have an account with them.
Okay. Oh, you got an album? You got an indie rock
album?
My
wife has affirmations she put out years ago when our kids were little. And so my kids are doing affirmations. She has affirmations for moms. And
really? You have an affirmations album?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's funny.
We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
But
we'll talk about it.
CD Baby has this thing when you order a CD, like if you Google CD Baby letter, and this is something we've talked about here at our branch, is like how to create a CD Baby moment for people. And it's, as soon as you order a CD from them, you get this email, and it's like, your CD has been pulled out of the shelves and placed on a pillow, and it's being lovingly packaged into a box, to be, delivered to you. We're saying a little prayer over it right now.
Yeah. I love that. That's
so
a strange moment.
It's one of those strange, unnecessary things, right? That's
so good.
Anyway, it's an easy thing to think of. Like, how can I trigger that in my own business? I'm thinking of that right now.
I know. Me too. White elephants. Okay. Pink elephants. So bring us home, James. Bring us home.
Yeah. So this podcast, if you're listening, I'm so thankful, and I'd love to have a conversation with you. If you're in the Portland area and you're interested in buying or selling real estate, if you're a realtor or a financial professional or in the real estate business, I want to have a partnership with like-minded, forward-thinking professionals. So just reach out and find me. I can be found at pdxhomeloan.com. That's been my website for ages. And you can find out everything there is to know about my business, and particularly my phone number and email. You can contact me there. And thank you so much for listening. And I can't wait to keep bringing more of this. And we love your feedback. So if you have anything you'd like to add to this conversation, email me at james@pdxhomeloan.com. Keep it coming. We love it. Thank you.
You're a natural, James. Good stuff. Thanks today. I'll catch you next time.
All right. Thanks, Chris. See you later.